Welcome back! Today we're breaking down the seismic shift in Europe. Countries shutting their doors to immigrants in 2025. We'll reveal which nations have closed up, why they did it, and what it means for millions seeking a new life. Let's dive into the definitive guide to Europe's border crisis, starting now. First up is Hungary, the original architect of Europe's hard borders. In 2025, Hungary doubled down, upgrading its border with advanced surveillance, drones and thermal imaging. The asylum process is now virtually non-existent. The message is clear: no entry, no exceptions. Humanitarian groups report immediate turnbacks at the border, creating a bottleneck in neighboring countries. Hungary's move set off a domino effect, pressuring others to follow. Praised by nationalists, condemned by rights groups, Hungary's Iron Wall is the blueprint for Europe's new era. They've made their choice. Fortress first, debate over. Our journey now takes us to Poland, a nation at the forefront of Europe's border security debate. In 2025, after years of escalating tensions and political debates, Poland enacted the Sovereignty Shield Act, a decisive move to fortify its eastern border. This act was a response to increasing pressures and challenges from neighboring regions, aiming to secure the nation's boundaries. With this new legislation, border guards have been granted extensive powers. They can now turn back anyone attempting to cross the border irregularly, without the possibility of asylum applications. This has significantly altered the dynamics at the border, creating a more controlled and regulated environment. The Polish government has invested billions into constructing a state-of-the-art wall and an advanced surveillance system. This formidable barrier, equipped with high-tech sensors and cameras, has made the Polish route into the European Union nearly impenetrable, deterring unauthorized crossings. However, this fortified border has not come without controversy. Aid workers, who strive to provide humanitarian assistance to those in need, now face legal repercussions for their efforts. Meanwhile, migrants trapped at the border endure harsh and unforgiving conditions, with limited access to basic necessities. Despite the humanitarian concerns, the measures have garnered significant support within Poland. Many citizens view the legal and technological fortifications as necessary for national security, leading to widespread approval of the government's actions. Yet this has also turned the border into a flashpoint for international debate. The prevailing message from Poland is clear: security takes precedence over solidarity. This stance reflects a broader shift in priorities, emphasizing the protection of national interests. Poland's approach is a critical component in the evolving landscape of European border policies. As Europe grapples with the complexities of migration and security, Poland's actions serve as a pivotal piece in the continent's new border puzzle. The era of open doors and unrestricted movement across Europe is drawing to a close. As nations like Poland tighten their borders, the continent faces a new reality, where security concerns increasingly shape policy decisions. Austria, at Europe's crossroads, sealed its borders in 2025, citing strain on social services. Emergency powers let the government suspend asylum processing, turning away arrivals at the border. Systematic checks at crossings with Italy and the Balkans have ended Schengen's open spirit. The move, popular with voters, shifted pressure onto Italy and Greece. Austria's decision marks a turning point. Even core EU members are closing up. For many, Austria is now a dead end. The open arms era is history. Italy, long the front line for Mediterranean arrivals, launched Operation Secure Sea in 2025. Naval patrols intercept migrant boats far from shore. Rescue missions have become interception and return. Laws now target NGO rescue ships, impounding vessels and sidelining aid efforts. The government claims it's fighting traffickers and saving lives, but critics warn the Mediterranean is deadlier than ever. Fewer rescues mean riskier crossings and more tragedy at sea. Italy's gamble deterrence over rescue. The world is watching the consequences unfold. The stakes couldn't be higher. For years, Greece has stood on the front lines of Europe's migration crisis, overwhelmed by the sheer number of arrivals seeking safety and a new life. In response, the government launched what it calls the Aegean Shield, a sweeping set of measures designed to stem the flow of migrants and refugees across its borders. The strategy has focused on fortifying the land border with Turkey, erecting new barriers and deploying more troops. While at sea, the Greek Navy and Coast Guard have ramped up patrols, turning the Aegean into a heavily militarized zone. The wall along the Evros River, once a porous crossing point, now stands as a formidable barrier, an imposing symbol of Greece's determination to seal its borders. But these tough measures have come at a cost. At sea, the Greek Coast Guard faces mounting accusations of violent pushbacks, allegations that they forcibly return migrants to Turkish waters, sometimes endangering lives in the process. Human rights organizations and investigative journalists have gathered growing evidence, documenting dozens of cases where asylum seekers were denied the chance to apply for protection, raising serious concerns about violations of international law. On the islands, the once open refugee camps have been transformed into closed detention centers. Movement is tightly restricted, and many asylum seekers now find themselves trapped for months, or even years, behind locked gates and barbed wire. The Greek government insists it is simply doing what's necessary to protect Europe's borders, arguing that for too long, Greece was left to shoulder the burden alone while the rest of the continent looked away. For those seeking refuge, however, Greece is no longer the gateway to Europe it once was. Instead, it has become a fortress, one that is increasingly difficult and dangerous to breach. The Aegean, once a symbol of hope and possibility, is now a militarized zone where hope is fading fast, and the dream of a new beginning grows ever more distant. Denmark, often seen as progressive, is now aiming for zero asylum seekers, by law. In 2025, they began flying asylum seekers to third countries for processing, making Denmark unreachable even if you arrive. Asset seizures and tougher residency rules add to the deterrent. The government says it's about protecting the welfare state. Critics call it dismantling asylum itself. A temporary class of residents lives in limbo, never sure of their future. The message, "Don't even try." Denmark's policy is one of Europe's most radical. The right to seek asylum is vanishing. Switzerland, a country famous for its neutrality and nestled right in the heart of Europe, has always stood apart from the European Union. In 2025, this separation became even more pronounced when the Swiss government, responding to growing concerns about migration and security, reimposed strict border controls. The move marked a dramatic shift for a nation long known for its open borders with neighboring countries. Now, systematic checks and heavily armed military patrols guard the rugged Alpine frontiers. These measures are designed to block secondary migration routes from Italy and France, making it nearly impossible for unauthorized travelers to slip through the mountainous terrain. The Swiss border, once a symbol of European cooperation, has become a formidable barrier, with soldiers and police working around the clock to enforce the new rules. Asylum seekers now face a much harsher reality. Applications are only accepted at specific, tightly controlled transit zones along the border. Most people hoping for refuge are turned away almost immediately, with only a handful allowed to enter under exceptional circumstances. The process is swift and unforgiving, leaving many stranded in limbo at the edge of Swiss territory. This hardline approach, which was approved by a national referendum, has not gone unnoticed. Relations with neighboring countries and the wider Schengen area have become increasingly strained. Diplomatic meetings are tense, and long lines of cars now form at border crossings that were once open and free-flowing. For many Swiss citizens, the new policy is a proud assertion of national sovereignty, a statement that the country values its independence over the principle of free movement. Political rallies and protests reflect a deeply divided public, with some celebrating the move and others warning of its consequences. The message is clear: unless you are a Swiss citizen or hold a valid visa, entry is strictly forbidden. Travelers are met with stern warnings and rigorous document checks, and many are simply turned away at the border. The majestic Alps, once a symbol of natural beauty and openness, have now become a physical and symbolic wall, separating Switzerland from its European neighbours. In 2025, Switzerland stands as a fortress in the very centre of Europe, isolated, fortified, and determined to chart its own path, no matter the cost. The Czech Republic, once a transit country, now enforces zero tolerance for illegal migration. Police patrols and random checks target foreign nationals, and deportations are swift. Appeals are limited. The goal is rapid removal. The government cites security and EU law, but rights groups warn of racial profiling and fear. For migrants, the Czech Republic is now a gauntlet of checkpoints. Central Europe's barrier is nearly complete. Slovakia, pressured by closed borders in Hungary and Poland, followed suit in 2025. Emergency powers brought in the army, temporary barriers and checkpoints, ending free movement with Hungary. The Balkan route is now blocked. Migrants are stranded in border towns, unable to move forward or back. The government's response: more security, faster deportations. Slovakia's move sealed the Central European wall. The domino effect is real. Finally, Finland. In 2025, facing a migration crisis on its border with Russia, Finland closed every land crossing, indefinitely. Accusing Russia of weaponizing migration, Finland built new fences and deployed surveillance. Emergency laws suspended asylum at the eastern border. Asylum seekers were left stranded in freezing forests. Cross-border life vanished overnight. This is a new Iron Curtain built by the West. For Finland, it's about national security, not just migration. Europe's northernmost border is now sealed tight. 10 countries, 10 closed borders. 2025 is the year Europe fortified itself. The dominoes have fallen, reshaping the continent and the lives of millions. National security, economic fears and geopolitics now trump open borders and humanitarian ideals. Is this the new normal or a temporary crisis? Only time will tell. If you found this deep dive eye-opening, hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.